So today I wanted to talk about Wisconsin's parental sponsorship statute. Um, this is specific to Wisconsin. This may not apply to other states, and in fact, probably doesn't apply to other states. But if you live in Wisconsin, if you have a driver's license in Wisconsin, you want to pay attention to this. So, what is Wisconsin's parental sponsorship law? So, the way it works in Wisconsin, if you have someone under 18 that gets their driver's license, so starting at age 16 or 17 until they're 18, under our motor vehicle laws, you cannot get a driver's license if you are under 18 unless an adult sponsors you. Typically, it's a parent or guardian, but I believe other people can too. But for most of us, when we have a child get to be age 16, we go take them to the DMV, let them get a license, and you probably don't even remember, but you'll sign something sponsoring them. And one of the things that it does that you may not be aware of is that it makes you legally liable for them if they get into a car wreck and they're negligent and responsible. It actually automatically imputes that fault and that liability to you as a parent if you are currently listed as a sponsor of their license. And typically, and um, I believe this is true in all circumstances, but typically, if once one parent goes in to sign it, it's assumed that the other parent, if they are still married, is also a sponsor, even if the other parent doesn't actually go in and sign it. So you need to be aware of this if you have a child driver in the house in Wisconsin. And the statute is 343.15. It talks about the fact that it's required to have a sponsorship if you're going to get a license if you're under 18 in Wisconsin. And like I said, one of the things that it does is it makes you essentially strictly liable for your child's driving if they are driving a vehicle, whether they're driving your vehicle or someone else's vehicle, because the liability comes from the fact that they have a license. They could be driving someone else's vehicle. It could be grandpa's vehicle, a friend's vehicle, whatever the case may be. They could be driving someone else's car as long as they have permission to do so. If they're using this Wisconsin driver's license and you are a sponsor, you're going to be legally liable for them if they cause an accident or damages or whatever, and they're responsible. Now, that's sort of the bad news. The good news is that there is a limit on that. For a long time, there wasn't a limit, but that limit now, at least as of the time of this video, so it's really important if when you watch this video to verify that the limit is still $300,000. It's $300,000 per accident, and in fact, I can bring up the statute here. Let me see if I can do that. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. So you can see here. So I've got statute 343.15 pulled up here. And subpart 2B talks about any negligence or willful misconduct is imputed to the parents where both have custody and either one of the parents signed as a sponsor, and it's imputed to an adult sponsor who signed the application. Okay. The parents and so the child and the adult sponsors are jointly and severally liable for any damages caused by negligent or willful misconduct. What joint and several simply means that the parents and the child together are liable. This doesn't get the child off the hook. And here, subsection 1 under B limits that to $300,000 for all parents or adult sponsors to all parties arising out of one accident. Now, I will tell you, having had, unfortunately, a number of cases recently where people had their children get into some bad car crashes and they didn't have enough insurance. Um, there, this is sort of a new provision in the statute, and it's not necessarily clear how that applies if there are multiple um, victims of the crash. I think most people would read this as being $300,000 total, regardless of the number of people that are involved. But there hasn't really been any case law yet that I'm aware of that makes that clear. But that is sort of the plain reading of the statute. So that is where that is at. Or if the person has more than $300,000 in insurance, then the limit is up to that. So if you have a $500,000 insurance policy, your liability stops at $500,000, not $300,000. If you are someone who only has $150,000 in insurance, you may be personally liable for up to the next $150,000. So this is really important, and I want to emphasize a distinction here that most people may not be familiar with. So in your auto policy, there is typically a per person and per occurrence, or per person and per accident limit. Okay. It's usually two different numbers, one number followed by a slash sign and a second number. That is pretty typical. Now you need to look at your insurance policy, and it'd probably be a really good idea to talk to your insurance agent about this and make sure, because I've actually found a number of insurance agents that have no idea that this is the case. Okay. So bring this up to your insurance agent, maybe share this video with them, have them double check that you have enough coverage, because in most policies, the per person limit is for the other person that gets harmed, not you as the parent, not your child as the driver, but the other person that's injured. And let's say you have $150,000 slash $300,000 auto policy. Depending on how the policy is drafted, there's a really good chance that that means that there is $150,000 in coverage for each person that is involved in the crash, and up to $300,000 per accident. So let's say you're involved, your son or daughter is involved in a crash. There's multiple people involved, multiple injuries. Each one of those individually can get no more than $150,000 from insurance, and collectively from the crash, the insurance company may be limited to $300,000. The reason why this is important is, even though you may have a $300,000 per occurrence policy, if only one person is injured and they're badly injured, the insurance is only going to pay $150,000 for them, not $300,000. And if that's what happens, you may be personally looking at, or your parent may be personally looking at, being responsible for the next $150,000, or whatever the difference is between the per person limit and the $300,000 under the statute. So this per person per occurrence limit is really, really important that you know and understand, that you talk to your insurance agent about that, because the last thing you want to do is think that you have enough insurance and you have your son or daughter is unfortunately involved in a bad crash, and now you find out you don't have enough insurance. And I especially want to emphasize this point, because I do see this happen. A lot of people have their insurance and go for the most affordable rates, especially when you start to add, non-adult drivers to your policy. The rates can go up quite a bit, and the motivation can be to try and get the lowest rates you can, which generally means lower limits. Okay. Or let's say you and your spouse have had auto policy for a while. You've had 100,000 limits, $150,000 limits, and you're feeling I'm a good driver, I'm not too worried. And then your kids get older, and now they're getting a license, and you add them to the policy, or you have your insurance agent add them to the policy. Your insurance agent may not ask you, and may not be required to ask you, if you would not like to increase your limits now that you're adding drivers. Don't rely on your insurance agent to think of it, because, as I mentioned, it is not uncommon for insurance agents in Wisconsin to be unaware of this. And even if they are, they may not be required to ask you about it, to offer it to you. And it's really important you as parents, as child drivers, to know this and ask questions of your insurance company, your insurance agent, and maybe ask around a little bit, because you just don't want to get caught here. At least you need to know what your legal obligations are and how much insurance coverage you have. So I hope that's helpful. I'll put links to that stuff below. If anyone has more questions about any of this, I've got other videos out there. I got other videos, other materials out there. The easiest way to find that is just go to craigstager.com. That'll take you to my link tree, and my link tree will have all the ways that you can get a hold of me or find some of the other videos that I have, and hopefully find some helpful materials for you. So I hope this is helpful. Talk to your insurance agent. Make sure you know your policy, and just take care of yourself and your family. Until next time, everyone, have a good one.